not the left. Yeah, AIPAC is AIPAC's come out with its first attack ad against Abdul al-Sayed, and they're saying Abdul al-Sayed disrespects women, Muslim style. He disrespects women by running against women. Have you guys noticed that he ran against a woman in 2018 for the gubernatorial run, and also is running against 2 women now? Classic. Okay, they're calling DSA white supremacists. Yeah, I know. It's fucking crazy. I was asked about what are my thoughts are. This is a candidate for Assembly District 65, mom of 3, New Yorker, and also the Manhattan Dems vice chair. Okay, Mariama James is the Manhattan Democrats vice chair. And this is what she had to say about DSA. I was asked what are my thoughts when I'm asked about DSA. The organization itself, based on its own data, is over 85% white, mostly male and mostly wealthy. I'll add to that the members share a collective white supremacist, I know better for you than you know yourself mindset. They didn't listen to the people of Palestine in 2024 who wanted them to support Kamala Harris. That's not true. The people of Palestine were not demanding that people support Kamala Harris. The fuck is this? I like that she said, these are white people that act as though they know better than black people about like whichever way people should vote, and then literally did that. As an American, I know better about what Palestinians want. Okay, that's interesting. 1K likes, 300K views. Nobody agrees with this. Yeah, this is a strange thing to do right after you said, white people are... Yeah, Mariama James got 10% of the vote and came in 5th against Idiapa Saira Tupac, by the way, our boy in that district, Assembly District 65. That's probably the reason why she's chirping so hard. Anyway, 5th place is not great. Nor did they listen to the black people here who told them what a Trump re-election would mean for BIPOC and other marginalized communities. And they didn't listen to us in 2016 either. And we ended up in a conservative SCOTUS that's now stripping us of our constitutional rights one at a time. They are racist, anti-black, anti-Semitic, anti-East Asian, non-Democrats who follow the teachings of a registered independent who's never passed any legislation and is the senator of the literal whitest state in the union. They have no clue what middle, working, and low-income Americans need because those labels have never applied to them. And if they really cared about POC, they would amplify our movements. So here's a couple things I want to say. As you guys know, whenever I start talking about these sorts of issues, specifically white supremacy and anti-blackness in American politics, all of a sudden, my name is no longer Hassan. My name is Hank, and I'm a white supremacist, right? So I'm going to be as careful as I can when I talk about this issue. But this kind of stuff doesn't just exist on Twitter, okay? It's mostly on Twitter, but there is definitely a constituency, from what I understand, amongst some unks and aunties, okay, that live in black neighborhoods that also feel a level of enmity towards the pro-Palestinian movement to a certain degree, while also being unbelievably sympathetic to the Palestinian plight because they're black and they understand that intrinsically, right? So it's this weird situation where there is this, and I'm sure a lot of the black chatters in here will say that this is a conversation that they've had with their relatives, like older relatives in their communities, where on the one hand, like every black person in America, with the exception of like, I guess, Clarence Thomas, understands the plight of oppressed peoples, like what it feels to exist under colonial, or like what it looks like to exist under some sort of occupation, especially considering that, Ta-Nehisi Coates said it best, like going to the West Bank, you see the apartheid and you immediately get it. It is a reminder of the Jim Crow South. It is a reminder of the apartheid in South Africa. So like, this is not a form of existence that is unfamiliar to black people. So they understand that. But then also on the other hand, there is this level of bred enmity between groups that normally would be a coalition, and those groups are coalescing generationally. If you're talking about, young black and brown people, there's no bad blood, right? This is almost a generational thing exclusively, where like some of the older voters, while still very sympathetic to Palestinians, also legitimately see the uncommitted movement as like an op, right? They have a lot of enmity. They like Kamala Harris a lot. Straight up. I don't, but they do. Now, this doesn't mean that, this doesn't mean that these unks and aunties are impossible to talk to, okay? But there are certain things you can't do. You can't just like, not to get all enfant door in here, but you can't just like be straight out of the gate super dismissive of Kamala Harris. Like, you have to ease into some of these criticisms. They don't see that Kamala doesn't care about what? What? Why'd you say stop? He did it? Why? What is this? Yeah, the problem is, anyway, as I was saying, the problem is there are a lot of people in institutional power within the Democratic Party that have been totally bought and paid for by the Zionist lobby. And this political machine understands how important it is to have key figureheads, like people that are in positions of power, people that are coming from these communities. Hartzell Gray talked about this, right? Like, AIPAC will go to anyone and everyone, that has like even a crumb of power or a potential to gain a crumb of power within the Democratic Party, especially black politicians, that will be like, we'll give you money. We'll make sure that your seat is secure, and then you need to be a reliable vote and a willing participant in this process. That does actually pay dividends. Okay, that does. So it's more complex than the way that this person is presenting it. This person sucks, obviously. I mean, this is just the establishment Democrat that is shamelessly trying to rip apart any kind of coalition building that should take place, using blackness and a defensive posture, like defensive voting, as a way to draw some kind of enmity between socialist movements, socialist groups, and black voters and the black working class. It's disgusting. It's gross what she's doing. Having said that, there is an impact. Okay, there is an impact. Some people do feel this way because they watch television, unks and aunties specifically. So we have to make sure that we bring everyone into this movement. You got to do that. It's just selling out for comfort under liberalism. Palestine. Yeah, this is also true too. Every black person who has resentment for pro-Palestine people is literally someone with financial security and an established career and only wants the aesthetic of a black woman in power. It's just a selling out for comfort under liberalism. Palestine disrupted that formula, so the people who actually benefited felt like they were good people for supporting it, don't want to acknowledge that they were wrong. Yeah. So yeah. I don't think that's true. No, there is a level of truth to this, but you have to think about it in an intra-community mindset. Who has more money than the next generation? Boomers do. Okay? Boomers do. They usually have, if you're talking about Daria Liza's district, that's a separate conversation. We're talking about the leaders, the people that are constantly making a big deal out of certain things. I'm not specifically talking about Daria Liza's district and how they voted. Like, homeowners voted, went to Daria Liza, whereas like a lot of renters went to Espaillat. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about like a lot of people who have an ownership stake or feel like they have an ownership stake also sometimes do have more of an ownership stake than the younger generation does. The same generational wealth disparity exists within the black community as well. It's obviously much more marginal in comparison to the rest of the country. But by and large, if you're looking at just the black community, yes, the black political machine is comprised of wealthier wealthier black folk that have gotten into leadership roles within the Democratic Party and have made a decent amount of money. Not, not anything to write home about in comparison to, like, obviously white supremacists and entrenched white power in this country. But I'm just talking specifically within the black community. Of course, there's, like, a nest egg, maybe a home ownership, that kind of thing. So a lot of these people obviously want to maintain their entrenched power, right? Hey, bud, I just wanted to wish you the worst of luck in your feelings with the State Department. No one likes you because of your own behavior. Does being a false foreign arbiter ever get tiring? Yes, I'm a foreign false arbiter because I want to end wars and spend all that money on our infrastructure. Thank you, the holy fetus. It's this exact mentality. It's this exact mindset that is like, you don't even need to be propagandized to. You're already doing the propaganda on your own. You're going to a guy who's like, yeah, we should stop all wars and we should fucking spend this money on ourselves. And you're like, that's communism, you fucking foreigner, you fucking foreign commie. That's what you want. Very, very strange. Anyway, the irony, of course, is yes, Fox News is leaning into this narrative as well. They're like, oh, Democrats, socialists, so white. Bernie bros. We have to be, I think we have to be a little bit more careful, and we have to ensure that we're organizing in black communities as well. Once again, because this will be a major bulwark against progress. We can't allow it. Okay? The black working class is the heart and soul of all historic revolutionary movements in this country. And the representation of the black political identity oftentimes is not in the hands of the black working class, but instead is in the hands of people who have generated a level of generational income and generational wealth that have every investment in protecting entrenched power. And they do not shy away from using pre-existing racial wounds to consistently divide the working class. Okay? And the way to combat that is by out organizing them. If you are dismissive in any way, shape, or form about the black existence in this country, about white supremacy in this country, you will never win the aunts and the unks over. And I understand why people would be offhandedly dismissive, to be like, we're doing something that's good for them. Why don't they understand it? It's like, well, when you do that, you come across as dismissive. And it is just a somber reminder for many, especially older black folk, that you are doing the same exact thing. A good organizer understands who they are trying to organize and uses the language of the masses and obviously focus on the needs of the masses. You got to go where the masses are. And the same thing obviously remains for organizing specifically in black neighborhoods and black communities as well. It is definitely the biggest weakness of the socialist movement in this country, and it's by design. The American government has done a horrible job, but a fantastic job nevertheless, in eviscerating the radical politics of black socialist movements, revolutionary black movements that have played a formative role in the civil rights struggle, in the abolition movement. The American government has successfully eviscerated, successfully gutted and destroyed and used violent action against these kinds of revolutionary black movements. And the remnants of that is former leaders that have been completely consumed by the establishment, or are just quiet. And rebuilding that will take time and effort. And you can't build it from the outside anyway. You know, you have to build it from within. You can't build it from the outside. You can't just be like a white guy that goes to a black neighborhood and you're just like, oh, let's organize you guys. Like, that's not how it works. Because that already remains. I think that already exists. There are a lot of younger black voters that are ready for this moment. And obviously DSA has done a fairly good job about even combating the entrenched power that exists within the black political class and the brown political class as well. Obviously, DSA ran a lot of and consistently continues to run a lot of young women of color, black women, and I think that's part of the reason why there are a lot of people who do this like insanely racist shit where they're like, DSA is anti-black. Oh yeah, well here's two non-black people. You can't make this up. That's crazy. Like, you are leaning into ADOS nonsense, okay? Like, there's a level of like racial animus that exists, or some political animus that exists, and the fact that this guy's trafficking in this as like supposedly a woke liberal guy is insane. As a black liberal man, it's exceptionally insane, especially considering that Kamala Harris was the recipient of exactly this kind of racialized animus that Republicans took advantage of. It was crazy. Okay? It's crazy. The idea that like Kamala Harris is not a black woman or not perceived as a black woman is bullshit. She is a black woman. Of course she's perceived as a black woman. She went to Howard, right? Like, she was a part of a part of Divine Nine. Like, and I'm fairly certain that this person probably yelled quite a bit at the time when people said Kamala Harris is not a black woman, right? Yeah. I'm fairly certain. What's ADOS? It's African descendants of slaves or foundational black Americans. There's different offshoots and stuff like that. It's a somewhat reactionary op. Yeah, I mean, this is unironically a reactionary attitude to have. The notion that Daria Lisa or Maylot are not seen as black women, when it's not. I mean, they're not even like fresh off the boat. You know what I mean? Like, there is this level of enmity that exists with like some African migrants that come to the United States of America, go to college, and they personally make this distinction that they are not black in the same way that like African Americans are, right? And then they very quickly realize that it's not about their experience, it's about how they're perceived by white supremacy, right? Like, white supremacists and how they perceive you is how you are defined in a white supremacist society, which America is. So yeah, a police officer is not going to see Daria Lisa and be like, whoa, wait a minute, are you Afro-Latina? I guess you're not a black woman then. Like, that's not how this works, right? That's crazy. Same with Kamala Harris. Anyway. But this is incredibly reactionary. Yeah. What is this? Unrelated but woof. The intercept signal tip line was infiltrated by a third party. What the fuck? Jesus Christ. Yeah. Anyway, that was a little bit of, insincere, Black Zionism. Not up to me to talk about this extensively, obviously. There are plenty of Black socialist content creators who have talked about this extensively, Sean the Black, FD Signifier, and the like. But it is something that I'm aware of, and it's something that I urge my community to be definitely a lot more careful about, okay? While there are very cynical paid agents that are either trying to defend their entrenched power, their societal position, and doing so by bringing up their identity in defense of an apartheid state, okay? Your opposition to that should not be to dismiss the concerns and come across like you're dismissive of white supremacy, okay? You got to be more careful, especially because I think the next target for DSA should be to organize, obviously outside of like deep blue enclaves, but organize in Black neighborhoods. I can't speak for our next governor, Toby Durden, but if I were running the governor's office, Hassan Piker would be immediately detained and deported by the National Guard under the Communist Control Act of 1954 should he ever enter our state. Will you join me in fighting? Hassan Piker thinks you're hot, not clickbait. Toby Durden. It's literally because I find his name funny to say. Illegally voting for Turby, and you can't do a damn thing about it. Bet you're secretly a Larry Roden fan. Larry Roden, Dusty Johnson, that yellow belly coward. We'll have none of that Dusty Johnson talk around these parts. You're treating these real people like an alternative reality game. It is true. It is like that for me. I'm still legally voting for Turby and you can't do a damn thing about it. Bet you're secretly a Larry Roden fan. Organize with what? You almost never talk about Black people beyond us voting for DSA. Need to do better. That's crazy. Afrofuturism scholar. I talk about American politics, and a fundamental plank of American politics is white supremacy. So I talk about white supremacy quite frequently. So that's not true. But then TikTok will clip this and be like, Hassan is dismissive of Black people's concerns. And then it turns into like 17 weeks of meta commentary.
Now look at all of this. And I want to get your not only reaction to that, but what do you think it means in terms of the future of your party, Yemisi?
It feels like people who have never really had to work, and we know Malat hasn't had a very traditional job, and this is reflective of a lot of people that are in DSA. They have led very privileged lives where they've only had to sit and ponder about what hard work is and never had to actually do the hard work. And I think
this is nasty business, by the way. Going on the objectively white supremacist news network, Fox News, as a former Biden White House staffer, as a Black woman, to just like talk about the more radical flank of politics that you are in opposition to because of your job, because of your position in society, and just like leaning into these narratives is nasty business. Okay. Also, of course, DSA has gotten more diverse, demographically diverse over time. I think they still use the 2021 numbers when it was like 85% white. But regardless, it's really funny because like a lot of the leadership roles, but certainly also like the people that DSA is trying to get elected in the positions of power are literally, they're just young. That's it. That's the thing that really pisses these people off. They're young and they're unbought, right? Most of them are women of color. Like, what are we talking about? Calculus U, exactly.
That's reflected in a lot of their ideology and a lot of their platform. It's not connected to the steps that take real policy wins to make happen. But I don't think that we should ignore them and think of it as something.
Yeah, Claire Valdez won every age bracket and racial group is not just more diverse, it's the most diverse group of voters, as were the Bernie voters back in the day, but it's all smears at this point. People are desperate for this narrative. Yeah. And I think the best way to combat this narrative is just by continuously winning, right? The best way to combat this narrative is just by winning, okay? By putting our candidates up, by having them win, and creating more political power within the party system. And that's it. Because this is how you smear a movement, right? You try to divide and conquer. So you say, these guys are white, they're white supremacists. You go on Fox News and you say that. And then other liberals within the entrenched political power will turn around and highlight Fox News all of a sudden, as though Fox News is a news network that cares about white supremacy. I mean, if DSA was a white supremacist institution, Fox News would be promoting it, right? They would be defending it. They'd be promoting it. They wouldn't be attacking it. And then for the actual white supremacists, they say DSA are a bunch of race communists. They're a bunch of immigrants. They're actually putting immigrants, and they're being voted in by immigrants, right? Like first generation, second generation immigrants. And it's an immigrant in that situation is obviously go to an HBCU this fall and talk to our young people. Okay, first of all, who's to say that's not in the works, my friend? Yes, this is in the works. Okay. Anyway, we're working on it. But yeah. But you also have to have student groups invite me. If they do, I'll go. That's how it is. You know what I mean? Yeah, whenever the left wins, the establishment, instead of asking why Democrats are rejecting their candidates, resort to smears. Apparently, the diverse communities that came out to vote for Claire, Brad, and Claire are all white supremacist anti-Semites. Y'all will keep losing until you learn that voters are not stupid. Here's the other thing, though. Because people like myself are at like the forefront of this movement, it's easy to just point to someone like myself and go, see, of course they're white. Look at this fucking white asshole. Look at the way he's been dismissive about black struggles in the past. And then they run the clip compilation. And for a lot of aunties, for a lot of unks, they see that and they go, if they're online, they see that and go, oh my God, this guy's racist. Oh, this is real. This makes sense. Which is also part of the reason why it's important to, and I do this all the time, to prop up, a more diverse array of voices that are radicals, that are socialists themselves, including black socialists, right? Progressives of all different backgrounds. Representational politics does matter. Okay, people want to hear from someone who doesn't just empathize with their struggles, but has lived their struggles. It's huge. It's important. You know? There's just no way that in the United States of America in 2026, you are going to have a revolutionary movement without black revolutionaries. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to make it. You're not even going to make it out of the gate. Okay? That's it. And it's not to say like, oh, black people have some like super secret power or anything like that. It's just that historically speaking, that's just never existed. It's not just aunties and unks. There are other black political commentators who should be reached out to, not Democrats. It's not just aunties and unks. Stop stereotyping. You're missing the boat if you continue to minimize this. I'm talking about like on the voting side now. When I say aunties and unks, I'm talking about not the commentariat, my friend. I'm talking about like the actual base. Do you see what I mean? I'm not. The commentariat is all different. All different backgrounds, all different ages. Not your aunt. I do vote DSA, but you're offending us. Okay. Anyway. Are you ever going to go back taking a day off a week? Potentially. I literally have a playlist. I show every black person I want to watch you, Lamau. Whiteness doesn't exist is always a hit. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of commentary from my side on these sorts of issues, right? So like there is already a shit ton of instances where I've like obviously talked about these problems from a position of empathy, from a position of understanding. It's just it's the same principle. It's the same principle with like what I always tell you. Like if I go on a bro podcast, like a fitness podcast, you can show that to your bro friends. If I go on like a finance podcast, you can show that to your finance friends, right? No, I'm not sharing the playlist. Is my secret sauce? Okay. Anyway, people asking a white man to speak on black issues is a weird request, man. Why not go to the source and ask black leftists to help them succeed? Rose me the wrong way when chatters do this. I mean, I know my role, okay? My role here is to educate white people that have been inundated with white supremacist propaganda their whole lives, white supremacist social conditioning their whole lives, to develop a better understanding of black existence and how white supremacy works in American politics and plays a formative role in our understanding of the world. That's my job, you know? I understand I understand the I can only analyze the struggle. I don't like live in it. I can also compare it to my own personal situation in certain ways, but it's not going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. Okay? But in any case, this is nasty business. Nasty business. To go on Fox News to be like, yeah, DSA is so white supremacist. I mean, look at the numbers on the board. If we're talking purely from a representational politics perspective, look at the candidates. Look at who was on the New York City DSA slate, for example, right? There was one white guy. David Orkin was the only white guy. And even then, he's gay and Jewish. You know what I mean? But he was the one. There was one white guy, man. Out of the 10 candidates in the New York City DSA slate, there was one white person. What are we talking about? It's crazy. Like, it's not like... I don't think a white supremacist organization would be doing that. You know? Like... And before people say, oh, well, what about like, Republicans? What about Republicans that run like black candidates? It's like, yes, in white districts, black Republicans get voted into office by white people. Okay? Black Republicans have never been voted into office by black people. That's the secret. That's the major difference between New York City and like and a black Republican that comes out of Florida, like Byron Donalds. You know what I mean? Is white people that are voting for Byron Donalds. It's not just white people that are voting for the DSA candidates.
That only happens in very deep blue pockets. 5 years ago, I could have never imagined that these kind of candidates would be coming to Congress, and now they're here. And the job right
Yeah, the other side of it also is that, like, the black Republicans' politics are anti-black inherently. The Democratic Socialists of America's politics are not anti-black. It's just fucking ridiculous, you know what I mean? And that's part of the reason why you see that more often than not coming from white supremacist institutions. Even if it's a black face that is saying these things, even if it's a black voice that's saying these things, is still directly on a white supremacist network. Fox News is a racist ass, white supremacist ass channel. Right after this, they're going to go back to talking about how Haitians deserve to fucking be purged from the boundaries of the American state because they eat cats and dogs. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be doing that. And this is the type of shit that I don't think black people will fall for regardless. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, I don't think this is not going to be a message that people actually look at and resonate with, especially when it's coming from Fox News. This is just to make the white supremacists that watch Fox News feel a little bit more comfortable with their worldview, to be like, see, they're hypocrites too. They're just like us. They're also racist just like us. Right? Like, that's what it is, right? What is this? You are being offensive with that aunt uncle label just teaching you. Okay, I will try not to use aunties and unks when talking about boomers, okay?
now for a lot of people in the Democratic Party is to make sure that nationally this is not something that becomes an identifier as the brand.
Now look at all.
Yeah, 80% of DSA members have a college degree, 60% work professional jobs, just 4% are blue collar, 85% are white. It's so funny to do this about Maylott, by the way. Like, Maylott, who, again, if you're talking about representational politics, unseated and older white lady, Diana DeGette, who actually has some drama. Oh, wow. It turns out this lady hates me. Look at that. Yemisi Egbewole. Summer Lee works for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Hassan Piker works for Cuba. Good luck winning Michigan. Lol, I thought it was so silly that Hassan Piker was in Cuba, but now I just want him to go back. Mehdi and Hassan Piker are a 2-for-1 special in insufferability. I mean, two could play that game. I think maybe there's a little bit of Islamophobia. Maybe there's a little bit of Islamophobia coming from this former Biden staffer. You know? Because, like, Mehdi Hassan and Hassan Piker, Why are you hating on Mehdi Hassan? Mehdi Hassan is a liberal. He's a diehard liberal through and through. So why are you hating on Mehdi Hassan? At least you could tell me I'm too critical, far too critical of the Democratic Party. You know, you can make that argument for someone like myself, but with Mehdi Hassan, Interesting. Will Chatter's scolding take a second thought now that this is shown? No, the Chatters were not defending that person. I don't think anyone was actually defending that person. Most people understand what's going on there. She's on Fox News. Come on. If you go on Fox News, you talk about left economic populism to reach out to the Fox News audience. If you go on Fox News, you defend your positions. You go on Fox News to talk about how, like, the DSA is so racist. Like imagine if Bernie went on Fox News and was like, you know who's racist? The Democrat Party. Like, that would be ridiculous. You know what I mean? You're not there to give them ammunition. You're there to win the audience over. trying to go on Fox News to punch left is nasty business. Yeah. But yeah, Bhatia, who is also an elite college graduate, for the record, who's like, it's one of those like English major, graduated from an elite institution, talking shit. 80% of DSA members have a college degree, 60% work professional jobs, just 4% are blue collar, 85% are white. This isn't a working class movement, but an elite one, for whom Free Palestine and abolish ICE operate as a smoke screen for class privilege, just like climate and trans activism and identity politics once did. Once again, I cannot stress this enough. Bhatia wrote her PhD thesis at Berkeley on coercive pleasures, the force and form of the novel 1719, 1740. If you think an activist organization is disproportionately white, male, and professional, wait until you see the racial, gender, and class makeup of the mega donor class that directly funds the Democratic Party. Incidentally, I've been thinking for some time we need a racial equality in Democratic Party donations. I think the DNC should pass a rule requiring at least 50% of the donations come from people of color. No more PAC spending from Bill Gates, Reid Hoffman, and Michael Bloomberg. I mean, to say that like you cannot be working class if you've gone to college is also already ridiculous, right? But even then, Bhatia has gone to elite institutions, right? It's just fucking idiotic to make this argument. And labor unions for the longest time have also played a role in defending entrenched power, but that's obviously changing with the UAW, so that's cool. And when you got, like with Abdul, when you got the UAW backing you, it becomes a much harder argument to make, right? Wait till these fucking, annoying commentators figure out that UAW also doesn't just have auto workers and has grad students in it too. Then they'll start talking about how like grad students actually overtook the UAW. They're not a real working class union anymore, I'm giving them some game. I'm giving them free ball right now. Yeah. Election analysis for VoteHub. Ellis Bates also offered some takes on Julie Gonzalez, which we will be talking about in a second. But speaking of diverse voters, like Maylot Kiros's race shows once again, resoundingly, that it was actually voters of color that gave Maylot Kiros the advantage, right? It was districts where there were voters of color that overwhelmingly went to Maylot Kiros over Diana DeGette. Now, we know that already because Latino voters outside of Florida have generationally went overwhelmingly to more radical politics, to more left economic populism. This is something that Chuck Rocha has talked about quite a bit, or Chuck Rocha has talked about quite a bit. He was like Bernie's like Latino outreach coordinator. He's a Texan man. He knows Texas Latinos very well. Texas Latinos, as well as Latinos all around the country, respond very positively to left economic populism. Some of them might generationally have conservative social opinions, but it doesn't really matter. That is secondary. If you offer this voter block left economic populism, they will ride with you. Okay. The problem with Latino voter outreach in places like Texas, okay, is usually revolves around the fact that the Democratic Party does not care about doing any left economic populism. As a matter of fact, they hate it, and therefore they lose on the culture war front, because then that becomes the only thing that people vote for a party or against a party. And Texas GOP has mastered this method. Texas GOP has mastered this method. That's why Texas is a red state. This is something that I've talked about for years, by the way, and there's so much polling to back this up. That's precisely the reason why one of the overperforming demographics for Bernie Sanders has always been Latino voters, which are, of course, much younger, a much younger voting bloc than every other demographic in this country. That's probably part of the reason why, but also because even older Latino voters actually respond very positively to left economic populism and policies such as that. But a lot of people hyper-focus on the Latino voters in Florida, specifically Cuban and Venezuelan refugees, migrants, and people of Cuban and Venezuelan descent, and they think all Latino voters are like that. That's not the case. Obviously, no voting bloc is monolithic. Obviously, no voting bloc is monolithic to begin with. Having said that, however, if you're looking at a voter profile, this is what Latino voters respond positively to, with the exception of Florida. Yes, classic stereotyping racism. What is this? Oh, you're saying like people that misunderstand the voter patterns of Latino voters. Yeah. Anyway, Fox News having more Democratic Socialists on. Incredible stuff. DSA on the rise here. Wisconsin Public Radio, Dem Socialist Hong's appearance on left-wing livestream draws cash condemnations. Yeah, they're coming after our gal a lot. I'm gonna do a media tour on Wisconsin broadcasts. If any of you are in Wisconsin and you work for WPR, any of these other channels, like reach out to my team. I will come on your show gladly. I will talk about it gladly. I'll talk about anything and everything you want. I'll get you some clicks. Okay. That's how you can sell it to your bosses. Because this is messed up. I did this for Abdul in Detroit. I went on Detroit Public Radio, if you remember, and that was actually pretty good. I can do that in Wisconsin as well. I'm a cheesehead. But yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about DSA while I go pee.
Every now and then, politics gives you a tell, not a poll, not a policy paper, not spin, the truth. Socialists are taking over the Democrats.